Welcome back to the Travsessed podcast. We're your hosts, Kim and Aaron. We are healthcare travelers and the creators of Travsessed. Travsessed provides on-the-clock, off-the-clock resources for healthcare travelers. On the clock being this podcast and our amazing course, Traveler School. Off the clock being Travsessed Adventures, which we are currently live on location in our villa. There's a lot of noise going on. It's windy. We're sitting upstairs, and we are bringing this week's podcast to you in real time.
Flight crew, please prepare for departure.
Okay, so we are literally live in the elements, as we stated in the intro.
Yeah, it's crazy because I feel like all the podcasts that we've recorded, okay, Aaron's rolling his eyes at me because apparently I'm not speaking into the catnip, or what's it, the
dead cat.
The dead cat, the way that I'm supposed to. But in order to do that, I have to have a double chin and stare down.
No, you're
and that
fine.
Hurts my neck.
I'm actually looking at the decibels now, and you were ranging in like the 12s, and then because you sat back, you went up to like where we want to be.
Okay, so I'm okay, boss?
You're okay.
Okay. So we recorded all those episodes, or the last episodes, from the hotel in Canggu, and we did that before the trip even started, and we weren't sure what to expect. No one had arrived yet, right? And so now to have gone and led a complete group 1 is over, it is complete, and now we are back at the villa in Uluwatu, gearing up, getting prepared, and ready to start group 2 tomorrow. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
how
totally.
did we get here?
And I think it's funny because when this podcast comes out, we'll be in it, right? We'll be in it with the second group and technically almost done. We'll be wrapping up the last 4 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is.
So we came to our villa early to get everything ready, and everyone is still like cleaning and like preparing. So Aaron and I are sitting outside with a beautiful breeze, a beautiful view of the ocean, beautiful sounds of construction and lawn blowers. I don't even know.
No.
But we don't have a room to go into, so we're just gonna like work with what we got, and I think the cats will help with the noise.
Totally, and I think it's crazy because, Uluwatu, we've been learning so much about it, and Uluwatu was like once a place that nobody was at. It was like a limestone jungle. There was like no water, no nothing, and now Uluwatu is blowing up, and like everywhere you turn there's construction, which is why Kim and I said we want to buy a villa here in the Uluwatu area, because it's popping hard.
It is, and it's growing so fast, but it's everywhere you turn there's construction, so it's kind of like annoying for the people who are here, right?
Agreed.
So anywho, okay, we digress.
I do want to say one thing real quick though. I do think it's interesting, and it kind of gets onto a topic, and it wasn't something that we had discussed, it's kind of like wanting to talk about, but I did realize that just from going to the grocery store today and going to the liquor store today, like I already feel so much better about group 2, and I feel like that's something that we always learn doing 2 groups, that like the second group I feel a lot more relaxed because I know what to expect. And I know like, okay, I can bend here, mold here, like we have budget here, we do this, we can get this many bottles or this many things or this place. It's good.
Okay, a little break because our room is
Getting ready.
But yeah, no, I think that's
You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, because 100%. We always make a joke of group 1 are always our guinea pigs, right? And it's such a great way. I mean, we still we have our shit together and things are still smooth, but we do kind of figure out, okay, maybe this didn't work, or maybe we needed more of this, less of this. And so now that we've ran 1 full trip, we have a better understanding of what to expect coming into group 2. So I feel way more relaxed, way more confident. And also I think too, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but this is the first Bali trip that we've ever done. This is the first non-hiking trip that we've ever done. And with our hiking trips, the hike is really kind of the main
centerpiece.
star. And then we build stuff around it, but that takes up a lot of time, a lot of space. And so it's pretty flowy and easy, where this trip, the Bali trip, there was nothing like that. It was a lot of moving parts. It was a lot of every day is something different. And there was many opportunities for things to fall through the cracks if we weren't like on it and organized and super planned, and basically just kind of like making sure. We weren't sure coming in. We were a little nervous. We were like,
I was extremely nervous.
Yeah, and we had our incredible friend G'day, who we've talked about and how we met in 2017, and he was helping us here on the ground, organize everything, plan everything. He was our driver, but he was really kind of the glue. Like, it was our plan, our itinerary, our vision, but he was the glue that held it all together, that allowed us to get from place to place at this time. And when just kind of looking back and be like, wow, like it was so fucking smooth.
Oh,
there
extremely.
were, of course, some hiccups, but
that's expected.
Of course, but for the most part, it was super smooth, super easy. And now, even going into group 2, it will be without a doubt even easier, because now we know exactly what to expect for everything.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting because, like, group 1, group 2, right? There's always this like, it's a fun,
competition?
Not a competition.
Comparison?
No, rivalry.
Okay,
in a fun way, right? Like, ooh, like group 2 is gonna be better. Like, and people are like, group 1, like no one will ever be group 1. You know, like it's fun, but like that always happens. Mm-hmm. And you know, Aaron and I go into both groups with the same energy and excitement, and we always have fun in both groups, and both groups are always very different. But my question to you is, do you feel like group 1 or group 2 has a better experience? Like, do you feel like group 1, because you're kind of working out the kinks, or maybe you have a little bit more energy, or do you feel like, I have my answer. I just thought of it while I was just saying that. So I thought, or okay, group 2, because I almost felt like group 1, you think you would have more energy, but I almost feel like group 2, because I know it's the last one, and I know that I don't have to really conserve, that I'm like, okay, cool, like I can fully show up, I can fully go out, because I know when we're done, we're getting back on a plane and heading home, we don't have to redo it. So I almost feel like I might have a little bit more energy for group 2. I don't know.
I always have more energy for group 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why, because there is a lot of, especially I think Peru last year, because that was our second go around with Peru. I felt really good about group 1, and then I felt even better about group 2, because then it was just like that more solidified. So I think every time we go into a first trip, you and I always tend to do random things that we maybe didn't plan, or we might throw in some extras. Maybe we take everybody out for drinks at a nice restaurant or something like that. And so I think for me, like, when you can understand the things that might, like with group 1, we had a snafu with the reservations, and then we had to pivot and all those kind of things. And so you kind of figure out those little things that could go wrong. And with group 2, I don't feel like there's anything that can go wrong, and I know what to expect, and I know.
Knock on wood, bro.
Knock on wood.
Why would you say something like that?
Well, because I feel like it can all be manageable. Like, I have a better understanding of what's going on with the trip.
Right, but that's not what I asked. Oh, I was asking about, like, I think that either way, whether you join group 1 or group 2, I think both are so great in their own ways. I think group 1, like, there was a lot of things that we got to experience for the first time with them. And because there were some things that we did in this trip that Aaron and I hadn't done yet in Bali, but we knew that it would be fun to do with a group. And so we got to have some first-time experiences shared with that group, that now with going in group 2, we'll have a better understanding and idea.
Agreed.
But it won't be our first time. So I think either way, both are special, and both have their own experience attached to them. And I think it's crazy how, and maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe this is just in life, but I always look at each group and I'm like, I can't imagine like anyone else had been in that. It was the perfect group for that experience.
I agree.
And you're like, I couldn't imagine if she was in group 2 or if he was in group 1. It was almost like the perfect people always come together in each group, that creates this cohesive energy that matches that specific group, and they're all so different.
I agree, and I think to really answer your question, it is kind of interesting. There's a lot of, I would say, unnecessary anxiety that happens for me on group one, always.
Yeah.
Of like trying to like figure out, is this plan going to be the one that works? Is this the right plan? Did we make the right, decisions on this and that? And then it works out, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for group two. But I'm also experiencing a lot of things on group one for the first time with them, and I think there's some excitement there too.
Yeah.
So then group two, it's like I feel more relaxed. I feel like the energy carries us through. Group two is always excited to come in. It always revamps us and gets us going, and then it's just like next thing you know, it's over.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
100%. Yeah, I think both have perks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we wanted to talk about on this episode, is kind of doing like a recap, kind of talking about the pros and cons, some takeaways, some things that we learned, some things that, we
might do differently.
Yeah, right. Just kind of like a debrief of all the things as we prepare. And it's interesting because, we only had 2 days in between the trips.
Yeah.
And which is a very quick turnaround. It's the fastest turnaround we ever have done, but we thought it's almost better to kind of stay in it because we're already in that energy of like leading the group and being with the people and kind of being in this go, that it's like, okay, let's take 2 days to rest, to recharge our batteries.
We took a day and a half, bud.
Yeah, a day and to recharge our own batteries, which is really important to me because I'm social and I like people, but I also really need that alone time to just like recharge and fill up my own tank before I can like hit it again. But now we're back. We have friends coming tonight to stay with us, and then the group starts tomorrow. And I surprised, because our friend just texted us, she had just made it home, and she said, you guys are cut from a different cloth. Like, how you do this back to back, I don't know. And sometimes I ask myself that, but I surprisingly feel pretty good today. Like I'm ready. And I don't know if that's also just because I know that we don't have a choice. So you kind of just click into this energy of like, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next group to come. I'm excited to do this again. I actually feel very rested, very energized, and almost like my battery is completely recharged. And I'm like, it almost feels like the first time. And I wasn't expecting that necessarily.
I'll also say that you and I are a little bit more calculated than the people that come in our groups. They're
That's
here
true.
to go crazy, and the person that actually wrote you was one of the ones that was up till 4 a.m. almost every morning. And so they go hard. You and I were in bed at 11.
That's true.
Every night.
Yeah, we do have to be more thoughtful about how we're staying up and all that, not only because are we leading and we have a lot of things behind the scenes that are going on that we have to be there for, to work on, to prepare for, all of the different things. But yeah, I want to be able to feel my best because I know I need the energy to get through this group and the next group. So that's true, but I do feel it was an interesting thing because I feel pretty good.
I feel great.
And every back-to-back trip has always been a big hike. And we were kind of like chatting about this. I'm like, how do you feel? Because I made this comment when I was feeling very tired, very overwhelmed, very mentally, physically, emotionally drained and exhausted after leaving group one. So I made this comment before that, and I think I might feel a little differently today as I sit here and I feel more energized. But I almost felt like it was easier to turn around and hike Salkantay again, or hike Inca, or hike W Trek, than it is to turn around and do this Bali trip, because there's so much more moving parts, and there's more drinking, and there's more partying, and there's more social aspects that I feel like the hiking trips don't necessarily have. So I was like, I would rather go freaking hike Salkantay again. I felt like I had more energy to do that was easier, and that was one of the hardest hikes we've ever done, than it was to turn around and do another Bali trip. But now that I've rested, I don't feel that way.
Well, I agree. I'm actually more excited to do this again than I would be to do Salkantay again.
Well, me too, which is what's funny, because I'm like, right, this is way easier.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think let's just get into the pros and cons with that. So like pros.
Hold on, because I wanted to also start out too by saying the fact that we just completed our first ever Travsessed Bali trip, and that was such a dream of ours, that to bring a group back to Bali. And we never thought that could be possible. We weren't sure how that would be possible because, you know, Aaron and I are always on scooters and where we stay, and we're like, okay, we would have to do it differently if we want to accommodate a group. It's just a different. I'm not being responsible for a bunch of people on scooters and, you know, staying at like these kind of people's homes and different. We would have to do it a lot differently. And so we weren't sure if we could pull off Bali. And so the fact that we did, and Bali is one of our favorite places, and it was like a dream come true that we walked out in real life. It is so amazing. And it's almost one of those like pinch me moments of, wow, like we did it. I just think that's really cool.
And not only did we do it, we got to work with G'day, like we talked about, who made it absolutely amazing. The bus rides were one of my favorite things, and that's usually like something I'm kind of like ugh about. But like 3 hours in Guster, which is what we named the bus, was like a highlight for me. It was just like a lot of fun. G'day makes it like such a cool environment.
Cool, because there's karaoke.
There's karaoke and music, and he hooks it up to a TV so we can see the lyrics. I mean, it's like a whole thing. We had 2 microphones. It's a whole vibe.
And he's also teaching us.
He's teaching us. It's like a whole mix. Like a lot of people said, I didn't even realize that ride was 2 hours long because he was teaching us so much, and we were in it, and we were like talking, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. And so the logistics of it, the things that we did, the itinerary, G'day, the hotels, the staff, the people, the villas, everything was just so awesome that I'm just excited to experience it with another group.
Same. And I feel like Bali gets a rap for being a big party island because it's so close to Australia, and it really is for Australians. Like, this is their playground. This is where they come. It's kind of like their spring break.
They're Cancun. They're Cancun for U.S.
Yeah. And so I think it was really cool to be able to break that stigma and be able to share Bali from our perspective and experience. And while there's a lot of partying and different things, I feel like this trip was really highlighted so many different parts of Bali that I think surprised people. And I love that we were able to do that.
Totally.
Okay, so now let's get in to the pros and cons of our first Travsessed Bali trip.
I think my number one pro was, and this is a lot of typical things with Travsessed trips, but there were a lot of firsts, which I think was cool.
There were so many firsts, and I just love that because I feel like people come in and they have nerves, right? With anything you do that's your first time, there's some nerves. You're not sure, you're uncertain. And there was a lot of that in this group, right? We had someone, it was her first ever international trip. We had people who were nervous about whitewater rafting.
ATVing,
never getting a massage before, which is crazy.
Well, I mean, it was a first.
Snorkeling.
It was a first for everybody that in Southeast Asia and being on a plane that long.
Yeah. So it's, what I love is that people have, first of all, that we get to experience first times for so many different people, and that they come, nerves and all, but are still like willing to show up and like do it and then walk away and be like, that was so fucking awesome. Like, I'm so glad that I did that. And I think that's just really cool to be a part of.
I mean, you're talking about this, and I just cannot stop thinking about Keaton and his massage.
Oh my God.
Like, he told me he had never had a massage before, and I was like blown away. I didn't know like that was his first massage. And so we had set up, this whole massage thing at our hotel. The hotel is like so nice with the spa, and like it was a phenomenal massage. But I'm laying there during my massage, and he was in our group, and I was thinking to myself, I said, oh my God, I didn't tell him that he should probably do soft to medium pressure. Because if he goes strong pressure, they're going to get after it. And that is not fun for a first time. You got to at least like feel it out. And so I come back into the room after my massage, and I look at him, and he's grinning from ear to ear. And I was like, Keaton, how was it? And he was like, it was interesting. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he was like, she got after it.
Now, didn't he say it got rough sometimes?
It got rough.
Yeah.
That's what she said. He goes, it got rough.
Yeah.
And I started dying laughing. I was like, dude, did you tell her? Like, he said, I told her strong. And then he goes, and then she asked me how it was, and I didn't want to say anything, so I just said it's fine. And
because he didn't want to be a pussy.
He said she squeezed my head. I thought she was gonna pop my eyes out of the head and my brain out of my head, and I about lost it.
The poor thing is like traumatized. Like
he's bruised.
He had bruises on his head. Like yeah, like he's like cool massage. Like I think I'm good, and we're like, dude, it's not normally like that if you don't get a hard pressure, but like he didn't know, and like he was just like trying to go with it and like didn't really know what to say, because it is kind of awkward. Like even the second time I got a massage, I think I got his girl.
Yes.
Because I said soft because I just wanted to chill, and it was so painful. She was squeezing my head so hard, and she was like, how's the pressure? And I was like, can you please be lighter? And I don't know why that is almost makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Like maybe that's just me, but to be like, I want it lighter, I want it harder. Like, because most of the time I'm just like, no, it's fine, because I don't really think that much about it. But it hurts so bad. I'm like, I can't even imagine what her heart is.
Oh, I know.
Oh, poor thing. I feel like we need
Probably
to send him a
broke
free
him
pass.
in half.
Yeah. He like couldn't get out of bed for like a week.
No, he couldn't.
But like,
well, I mean, he also was the one that had never had sushi before.
Yeah.
And we went to an amazing, which come to find out was like apparently everybody's highlight was the course pairing that we went to. But they served an unagi, an amazing piece of unagi, which is eel. And he was like, I loved it. And come to find out it was his first one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you've never had sushi before?
Which like blows my mind.
Yeah.
But, like that's so cool. And
I know.
And he loved it. There was another girl, she was nervous about, she had never ATV'd before. And listen, here's the thing. I've never ATV'd before or driven by myself. I always ride with Aaron because he's super comfortable on quad bikes. He's like, I trust him. He pays attention. Like, he gets what's going on. Like, I don't trust myself. I don't even like driving down the road.
In a car,
right? And so I always just ride with him. I do the videos, and it just kind of works out that way. And I feel very confident with him, where I would be very nervous to drive my own. Okay. So she'd never driven one before, so she was nervous, but she's like, but I want to do it, because we had the option, you could ride with someone else, but she was like, no, I want to do it. And this course was
extreme.
This was not for babies. This was insane.
I loved it. Every minute
I know
of
you
it.
did, because you're so confident. And I'm like, thank God I rode with you. I would have been off in a ditch somewhere.
No, you wouldn't have.
100%. I do not trust myself at all to drive.
So you're not going to ride by yourself?
Absolutely not. 1,000% not. And it's like, I think people should. We're all about getting out of your comfort zone and trying something new and all the things. And I do that in a lot of different ways. But to me, the driving of the ATV, like, I have a lot of fears around driving in general, and I really do not trust myself, that I just feel like that's not the place that I want it to be my first time. You know what I mean? And I don't want to.
Right. I can respect
it was
that.
such an enjoyable experience, like being on the back, because I trusted you. But she's like, I want to do it. She's like, okay, she got used to it. And then freaking took off. She literally like did a jump.
Oh yeah.
And got like air.
Oh yeah.
That I was like, oh my God, she's gone wild, like out of control.
And I love that she turned around and she's like, I feel so alive right now.
I know. And it's like, that's so cool, because there was so much nerves around it, and then being like, that was like the coolest thing ever. Even the rafting, scared of whitewater rafting, that never done it before. And had nerves about it. Am I gonna fall off? What's gonna happen? I like real deal like fears. And then to be able to get into the raft and have this cool experience and be like, that was so awesome. Like, what was I even scared of? And like that kind of stuff is just, it's just cool. It's cool to be a part of. And that's one reason why I love these trips so much, is that we get to be a part of a lot of people's first.
Totally.
Even Alexis with the snorkeling.
Oh, I know.
She's like, I've never snorkeled before. And I'm like, how have you never snorkeled before?
Which is hilarious, because the poor girl is blind without her glasses, and so she had to like snorkel without her glasses, and we were like, "Look at the sea turtles," and she's like, "Cool."
She's like, literally, it was just a
Just
blur.
blur.
Yeah, like no clue like where she was going. Like she's like, we're like, you need to get some goggles that you could like put over your glasses
Yeah,
or
and
get some prescription
maybe
goggles.
next time, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like,
But she said she still enjoyed it, but it was not. She
Yeah.
couldn't really see well.
I mean, I don't blame her.
What about the other girl who was very, very scared? All she wanted to do was see the sea turtles, but she was nervous to get into the water.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit choppy, and Erin like helped her like get into the water, and then she had a buoy that she could use. And she was like crying, and she was like, "I'm so glad that I did that," because she almost didn't. And she was like, "That I'm so grateful that I did that. That was incredible."
yeah. And there was a bunch of sea turtles and beautiful sea life. We saw an eel. The reef was clear. I mean, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of firsts, and I think that's the huge thing with these trips that we do is we want that to happen. Like, we want people to experience their first and get out of their comfort zones and do things they never thought they would do, and then see how they feel and evaluate it after.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, because 9 times out of 10 people are like, I cannot believe I've been missing that my whole life.
Yeah. Our first time was something that we experienced was that we had a kidnapping on the trip. Listen, that we had a lot of firsts on this trip that we had to evaluate and look at. And
Well, is there other pros? Because I feel like that's kind of leading into a con.
I was saying, no, this is not a con. It's like kind of piggybacking off like our first time. I don't think it was negative. Did you want to focus on another pro?
Yeah, let's hit another pro, because I do think that will leak us into some cons.
I think just overall, I think that the trip was great. I think, we had a lot of people that are like our OGs that have come on the very first Travsessed trip that were on this trip. And I always love being with them and having an adventure with them and catching up with them. And I think just, again, being together and having these experiences, there's just something about it that even though there was, some dramas and different things, it's like you feel like this big family.
Yeah.
Dysfunctional and all.
Yeah, whether it be dysfunctional or amazing or however these trips go, I think no matter what, when you look at Patagonia and Peru, and I've always strung those things together of like CrossFit gyms or anything, like you get really close to people when you do hard things and you do it as a team. And there's not anything that was really that difficult on this trip. So the camaraderie it has to be stepped up a little bit from each person's point of view. They got to want to get closer. And that's a possibility. And I think you just naturally are always connected by experience, which is great. But I do think that I like that real deep connection of, wow, we did something tough together and we helped each other out and we supported each other, and through that we got closer. Whereas I don't feel like Bali represented that. But I do think that there's aspects of it, of enlightened moments, of people getting out of their comfort zone and always remembering that feeling and knowing that it was always connected to this trip and these people. I think it will have a lasting effect. At least I hope it does.
People had some major breakthrough moments, like at the Pyramids of Chi, at the water purification, where you had that time to just kind of get centered and connect to yourself. Because that's very important to us, like in any trip, because when you're hiking, right, or you're doing something physically hard, you're kind of digging deep, you're connecting, things come up. Like I've sorted through a lot of things on the trail, just hiking by myself and being in the mountains. And Bali didn't really have that component to this, but then we did some other things that allowed you some space to just like have that time to connect with yourself. And there was a lot of things that came up for a lot of different people that shifted them.
Yeah, totally.
That got answers to, got clarity around. And so I think that's really powerful. So I think no matter what the trip is, that there's always going to be elements of that people take away, Which is a pro for me, because that's what I want. Yeah.
That's what I want. I want people to come and feel shifted in some way, or enlightened in some way, or have a difference of opinion that they used to have, but now they have differently because of what they experienced.
100%, yeah. And I think just another pro, just in general for us specifically, is that you know, we always look at everything as an opportunity to learn and grow. Like life is a classroom, and we're constantly learning and trying to do better, and recognizing what's triggering us, and knowing that that's, you know, an us problem, not a them problem. And that's not, like, that's how we live our life, that period. Like, we're always looking at things from that perspective. So these trips really do bring a lot up for us professionally, personally, in our relationship, individually. And so after each trip, there's so much that comes up that we reflect on, that we're like, how can we be better here? What can we work on? This came up, wasn't expecting that. Like, there's still things to heal here, or let go here. You know, there's so much that we're always looking at, and how we can be better and improve, that these trips bring up. And
Totally.
I think it's hard sometimes, but it's also such a great way for us to
Well, no, I think that's definitely a
keep growing.
pro in just doing these trips in general for me. Like,
Same.
it's why I love them so much, as tiring as they get, as frustrating sometimes as they can get, as demanding they can get, as I don't know, what do you call it? Like, the nuance of it. You know, there's like so much that I feel like I want to share, or do I have to share, or does the group understand that? There's so much in my own head that I have to work on and get better at. And I think these trips really bring all of that up, which is amazing. And it also triggers a lot in our relationship.
100%. Your cat's down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cat's down, cat's up.
Cat's down, cat's up. Oh man. Oh, and I think too, working on control issues, right? So like, I have control issues.
I do too.
Aaron has control issues, and these trips really help bring those things up. Of like, we cannot control. It's not our job. Like, we create a badass experience. We put so much love and time and thought into these trips, and they're incredible experiences. And we want people to show up and appreciate them and enjoy them, and like be present for them and ask questions, and like take in where you are, right? Like, we travel to experience something new and different, and to learn. Like, that's why we travel, you know, that's important to us. And so realizing that all we can do is create the path. All we can do is show up as the leaders of the group with, this is what we're going to be doing. This is the energy that we're bringing into it, and trust that people will have their own experience, whatever that is for them. And it's not our job to control what they think about it, or how they're experiencing it, or if they're showing up feeling their best, or if they're not. It's like letting all of that go, and just trusting that people walk away with their own individual experience, whatever that is for them. And as long as they've had fun and they feel like they've taken it all in, that is the only thing that matters. And we have to let go of any control about how we think everyone should show up and feel.
Totally.
And that's a huge learning lesson.
Oh my God, it still has not gotten easier.
It has for me.
Has it?
100%.
Well, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I think
I don't even really think about it.
I think I've had improvement. Oh, I think about it.
I know you do.
I mean, obviously,
It's
not.
more of a you problem.
Oh, fun.
I'm just kidding. No, when it comes to controlling the group, I think that's more of an issue for you than it is for me. I'm controlling in other ways, but as far as like the group goes, I have moments of that, but it doesn't bother me as much. I'm just kind of like, let people do their thing. They're enjoying themselves. It doesn't bother me as much as you.
I know. I guess you look at it as like, when you plan something, and you've planned it because, for us, we've planned it because we've done it, and we've had such an amazing experience that we want people to experience it as well, or else we wouldn't plan it on the trip. So then what's hard for me is when people will come and they don't experience it in the same way that we did.
And it doesn't matter, that's what I'm saying.
No, I know, but that's where I'm saying it's difficult for me to understand. Is like, well, then they didn't like that experience, or if they were like, it was all right, like, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how could you not? And I think that's like where I struggle, and majority of the time it does work out exactly as I see fit. People have the experience that they experience, and they take it in, and they learn from it and grow, and it's like an amazing time, and it is what it was supposed to be. So I just need to let off of that expectation.
Exactly. And that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Huge thing. And let's move into some of the other stuff. So let's go back to the kidnapping, because like that's piggybacking off of our first time.
Yeah.
Because all in all, like, this trip was great. There were lots of things that we weren't sure about, like we said, because it was not a hiking trip. And overall, it was a great trip. Everyone who came, we like everybody. Like, everyone was cool. Everyone had their own experience. Overall, like, good vibes. But there was definitely a lot of things that came up on this trip that we had never experienced ever,
or couldn't have planned for
in a group ever. So there was a lot of things that we took away and evaluated and like had to think about it. But it's so the kidnapping story. This was a first for us.
Yeah.
Never experienced this, and it's funny because we'll call her Nip. Okay.
That works.
We'll call her Nip. And she ended up being like one of my favorite people, just like good person, just so cool, so funny, just good in her soul.
Great energy.
Yeah, good energy, good vibes. But we had all like, this became more of a party trip than what we were expecting. Not from Aaron and I's perspective, but from the group's behaviors, yeah. And so we went out to dinner, and then that night there's like a really cool bar in Ubud up from our hotel called LOL, and they do fun live music. And Aaron and I would go there, we'd have a drink, because there would always be great live music. That was like our go-to spot. So we came back and we were like, do you guys want to go and have like one drink at LOL? Because it's fun. It's, you know, let's go see who's playing tonight. The group's like, yeah, let's go. So we go and we have a drink and kind of dance a little bit with the group. And then we're like, okay, cool. Like, we're going to go, because that is the thing with like all of our trips. Like, we have early mornings, right? Because we have things planned every day. We are very go because we want people to experience as much of Bali as possible. And for us, the most important things are the activities that we're doing during the day to experience Bali, and not the nightlife. Like, you can, if you want to go to a nightlife in a club, go to your neighborhood bar.
Right.
Yeah, like, that's not the main show, right? So we have early mornings and we go. And that is how our trips are always designed. If that's not your thing, these trips aren't for you, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we have an early morning. Everyone knows we're going biking, we're going cycling. It's like a
17 miles
through the villages, learning about the culture, just like really cool experience. We were so excited about it. So there's a couple people who stayed back, and
from the bar.
Yeah, they stayed at the bar. And last we knew, Nip had said she was going to finish her glass of wine. She was going to stay back with the other two girls to make sure everyone got home okay, and they're right behind us. They're on their way. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. That is how we left it. We are all grown adults, so Aaron and I aren't putting monitors on people or curfews and shit. It's like, cool, like, you're a grown adult. You know where the hotel is. You know what time we're meeting in the morning and what we're doing. All is well. We'll see you tomorrow. Like, we're not staying out as a security, right?
No.
Not the vibe. So anyways, long story short, we wake up the next morning ready to go, and we start with a text from her roommate that says, has anyone seen Nip? And immediately I am like, what do you mean? Like,
right.
I started freaking out because last we knew she was right behind us, and nobody knew where she was. Nobody knew. It was a fucking mystery. And I'm like, somebody's got to know something.
Right.
And so come to find out, and another girl came out later and kind of filled in the pieces and said that they ended up going to another club, and she left her at like 4 a.m. that Nip decided to go home with a guy and his friends to their villa. And that is where she said goodbye. And then the other girl came back to the hotel, and Nip went on to this villa. So we were like, okay, at least we know somebody saw her. Somebody knew somewhat.
Well, we could trace it.
Was.
We could trace it back to 4 a.m. In this time frame, me and Nip's roommate are walking the street, thinking like maybe she passed out in an alley. Maybe she got lost on her way home because she was so drunk and they went to another bar. Maybe she like didn't know how to get home and she's asleep and behind the bar or something. Like, we were searching everywhere. We went to the monkey forest. Maybe she went and laid down there because it was quiet. Like, we had no idea.
Oh my God.
And so then I'm like, well, like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And that's when we found out that she at least went to the other bar, and that they saw her leave with
So we
other
were
people.
like super scared
Oh, my
because
God.
anything can happen. She's a girl alone. They're
She
drinking.
left with
You don't know who she's with.
other tourists.
They got on a bike. They left Ubud. And I'm thinking, is she like tied up to a mattress somewhere? Like, does she need help? Like, we tried calling her, we tried messaging her, we tried Instagramming her. It was nothing. And we were getting ready to leave. She never showed up for the day activity, which was not like her. Like, she always showed up, like, and so I was like really, really nervous and scared because I'm like, what are we going to do? Like, we've never experienced this before. We're in another country. What do we do? Again, we're not mom and dad. Like, if she's just at some guy's house, like, I don't care, but like, just let us know that you're okay. That's all I cared about, because until I knew she was okay, there was no way that I was going to be able to go and like enjoy the group. It was like, what if fucking something happened? And oh my God, I don't even know what we would do.
We were literally calling G'day, asking like, what is the time frame before we could call the Balinese police, and like, what could they do to help us try to find her?
Yeah, I know. It was so crazy. And so Aaron and I ended up staying back that day and let everyone else go do the biking, and we just wanted to be around in case she called and like didn't know where she was or needed a ride or whatever. And so she ended up calling or texting at 10:30 and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Her phone died, so she had no way to get a hold of anyone. And she was okay. She was at this guy's villa, and like, she would be back. And all was well. And she came back, and but
of course we were happy to hear, but then I think it went from worried to pissed in a matter of like seconds.
Yeah, because
then I'm like, you're an adult, like, have like a battery pack that you can charge your phone. Like, if you're going to be going around another country with random tourists that you're meeting at a bar at 4 a.m, like, prepare yourself. I mean, I understand things happen or whatever, but like, you're with a group, you're not there by yourself.
And I think that was the biggest thing, is like, we were all together as a group, and again, no one cares if you go out with a guy. Lots of people did. In this group, there was lots of people out coming back at 6 a.m. and had stayed out, but they showed up. They went, to the whatever we were doing that day, but people knew where they were. And I think that was the only thing. We were just like, dude, you have to, like, because Aaron and I were like, how do we navigate this? Because again, I'm not trying to be mom and dad or make anyone feel bad, because there's no shame. Like, I want people to have fun and hook up with guys and have these fun adventures. Like, they're single and they're having fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm pro, like, hooking up, like, no shade from me, but it was like, just let us know you're not strapped to a mattress, so that we can, and you're not coming on cycling with the group, so we're not all running around trying to find you, so that yes, we could have enjoyed our day and the group could have. So that was like the only thing, and we were like, dude, how do we navigate this? We've never done this before. So that was definitely an interesting thing, but she felt horrible, obviously, and we've all been there. And I even said, like, that feeling that, like, you go do something fucking stupid because you're drunk and you're having a good time, and then you wake up and you're just like, oh no, shit. Yeah. And we all know that feeling. And so I didn't want her to feel even worse. She felt bad, and she fucking apologized, and she was like, I cannot believe I did that. And like, we've all been there, we all get it. And so that kind of became like the joke of the trip, because we're like, we got to put Kat on a leash. We got to put Nip on a on a leash, and like, we're like, okay, everyone do whatever the fuck you want, but please just text us and let us know what's going on.
Well, I think that also led into the cons of this trip, that we realized that, when we put these itineraries together, it is so thought out to, like, okay, like, we have, we arrive back in Ubud early, and then we have a later morning. So maybe that's a night that everybody could go out and listen to some music and have a drink with, the group and blah, blah, blah. But we'll still be back at a relatively good time. But, we can sleep in a little bit more. Like, Kim and I plan the itineraries around that. We always usually book in. We usually have, like a welcome dinner that's fun, and we get loose and we get to know each other. And then we jump right into the trip. And then it's bang, 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 bang the whole way. And then we end with an amazing night to celebrate the trip, where we can just cut loose and have a good time. What we realized was, like, this group didn't care how early the morning started. That's just basically when they had to cut off from the bar. And it was, like, kind of intense. And I think that was a con for Kim and I, because we're like, wow, like, obviously the day excursions were muted. They were obviously taken differently because there's a lot of partying, and it was very party forward with this group, and I think that was a con.
Yeah, I think it was something we had to navigate, right? Because our groups are always very physical. And so we're hiking 15 miles tomorrow. We have a full day ahead of us. So while we're all about having a good time and we have drinks and we can get down with the rest of them, our trips are not focused on that because it's very physical. So like even in Patagonia, we'd have a couple glasses of wine at the Refugio, but we're all like, okay, we got to wake up and hike tomorrow. So that's never ever been an issue in any of our groups. And so I feel like this particular trip was very party focused, and the group itself was a lot of young single girls, and I think it's just a different type of a vibe where, you know, you and I, Aaron and I are like, we're married, and we are, that chapter of being in the club until 4 a.m. is closed. I have zero interest in being in a club till 4 a.m. partying. That's just not my idea of a good time anymore. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but that chapter has closed for us. And this particular trip was just more about the late night party than it was anything else, and that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah, totally.
It is what it is.
No, it is what it is.
But that was something we had to kind of take a step back and look at, of like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Because we're not running, I don't even want to say party trips because we have a lot of fun.
No, but they're not party focused trips. They're literally like day focused, activity focused. Get to the nitty gritty, the culture, the food, the experiences, and then the drinks are a back focus, because there's nothing more than I enjoy than having a very productive day, enjoying a nice dinner, and then carrying on with like a nightcap.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite kind of day.
Same.
Like I'm ready for a beer now, you know, like.
Yeah, no, same. So that was definitely something we weren't expecting, that we're evaluating moving forward with Bali, and what kind of trip and experience.
Well, there was a lot of Kim saying we are never doing Bali again.
Oh, I was done.
Yeah.
I was so exhausted after this trip and all the things. I was like, I don't want to do Bali anymore. Bali is one of my favorite places in the world, and I just feel like
that's what I said.
There was a lot of things that I'm just like, this has got a bad taste in my mouth. But then just kind of revamping it was just a learning opportunity for us, and I think it all ended well, and I think it was a great trip overall.
Agreed.
And there was a lot of incredible moments together. And so I'm excited to now go into group 2 and see how that goes and how that feels. And I think we'll just kind of see how that goes. Like, we'll reevaluate at the end of group 2 and kind of just get an overall vibe. I think the other thing was, because our trips are so physical, we're so used to a certain type of person. Like, they know whether you're, and I don't want to say like you're fit and you're this, because there's people who come on our hiking trips that have never hiked before.
Never been to a gym. Yeah,
that aren't like these, big old healthy beefcakes or whatever. Like, they're at all different levels of fitness, but they come in with this mindset of like, I'm hiking this mountain, I am doing this trail, and it's a beast mode, it's a mentality, it's a grit. It's like, I'm here to do this and I'm gonna do it. And those are like, we like that. Like, those are the people we like to attract, of like, let's put our head down and fucking go. And so because this trip wasn't that physical, it was interesting and honestly quite shocking that there was like complaints about walking down the street,
or walking at the waterfall up the stairs, or having to walk down the stairs. It was 300 stairs down to the whitewater rafting. We didn't have to carry anything, just ourselves. And there was complaints about that.
Yeah.
And then like, walking back up the stairs was complaints. And it's like, I just don't understand that mentality. And
maybe
I don't,
because they're hungover.
And pretty much. And I don't know like how else to verbalize with our groups other than like, these trips will always be walking. Like, for instance, we walked a mile in the heat in Gili T from the ferry to the hotel. Now, we said we were doing that from the beginning, but like, our trips will always have a physical aspect to them. And if you complain from walking, do not come on our trips. And I think like, that's my thing. If your head says, I need a car every time, or I need transportation from the minute I step outside, don't come on our trips.
Yeah, I think that's an important takeaway, is that moving forward, I think we try to do our best to like describe the trips and stuff. And I think just we'll always, no matter what, no matter if it's Bali, no matter if it's Costa Rica or New Zealand, or obviously Peru and Patagonia are heavy hiking trips, but we'll always now go in with the intention
Even Oaxaca.
Of who we're speaking to, of this is for people who, not for people, but our trips will always have a physical component. Our trips will always, you will have to walk, you will have to hike in some capacity. We like action, we like adventure, we like to be active, and we also like to chill and relax and all the things too. But like our trips are definitely always going to be physical. You can plan on that happening, and if you are not interested in, or you think walking down the street or walking downstairs to a beautiful waterfall is too hard, our trips just simply aren't for you, and that is absolutely okay.
Totally.
There's so many other styles of trips. There's
Yeah.
party-centric trips. There's trips that you're just at a resort and you don't have to move. Like
there's cruises that you can hire somebody to push you on wheelchairs.
yeah, there's so many different options, and I think, you know, we just want to be so clear that, you know, our trips are always going to be more physical, and that doesn't mean you have to be in the best shape. There's people from all walks of life, all ages, all fitness levels who show up, but
It's a mindset.
It is a mindset.
It's a mindset.
It is about, I am walking down these stairs, but I am so fucking excited to go jump in that waterfall, and like, this is incredible, and like, look at where I am, like, I'm doing this, I'm gonna put my head down, I'm gonna go. It's like not that hard.
But I think too, like last night was a good example. Like Kim and I were tired, we went to lunch, and then we were like, you know what, I want to sit at a coffee shop. I don't want to go back to the hotel room and kind of like do the work that we had to do. I'd rather go do it at a coffee shop. And so I put it in, and we could have easily, there's literally 18 million people screaming in our faces, do we want a taxi, do we want a ride? And we wanted to walk. We wanted to walk to be able to see the area we were in. You kind of, I personally feel you get to experience a little bit more because you're slower. You're not just riding in a car. You have to be thought-provoking when you're walking, and like you can really capture an essence of a place when you're out there walking. And I prefer to walk over taking a car any day.
Yeah.
And so
same.
that's kind of, why would I try to arrange 12 people a ride when we could just walk for a mile? Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's always going to be the mentality.
Always the mentality, and we'll just do a better job of explaining the physicality of what we do. And again, like, we're Travsessed Adventures. Like, I always want to do adventures. That is the vibe of everything we do. And I want to do, this was a soft trip.
Oh my gosh, so soft.
That's what I mean. Like, this was a soft trip when it comes to the physical stuff. So all of our trips will always be like that. And I just want to be so clear about that is the vibe of our trips. And it is not for everyone. And again, we're talking about stairs. And honestly, that waterfall was nothing. The one you and I went to, we had to walk up these stairs, and there was 400. And honestly, like, I felt a little out of shape because I was like, oh my God, my legs were shaking.
These were legit, these were crazy stairs that we did on our waterfall.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is hard. But all was well, it's okay. Like, I got up those stairs. I'm not gonna like complain every step. I looked around me, I'm like, this is awesome. I'm getting a workout. I can feel my booty burning. Let's fucking go. I don't like the complaining in every aspect. And I think, of course, we're humans, and we're gonna say things, and we kind of will get together and be like, oh my God, like, that was whatever. Like,
yeah, not really.
Whatever. But I'm not saying like never complain. I complain sometimes, and all that's fine. But I think the people that we want to attract, and the people we do, right? I guess it's like not want to. The people that we do attract, 90% are people with very open minds, a willingness to get out of their comfort zone, to put their head down. The mindset is, let's go. The mindset is, I can do this. Look around me. This is incredible. A positive attitude, an openness, a friendliness, and just a good attitude. If you don't have a good attitude, if your like default is like more negative, and you kind of want to focus on the complaining of everything, that is, our trips aren't for you either, because I just honestly don't have patience for it.
No, and I mean, I'm also not everybody's guru, and it's really hard to be like, dude, I could really peg of like, have you ever taken like inventory of the thoughts and the things that you say out loud? Because it's interesting. I don't think a lot of people have done that. Kim and I have done it. We've literally written down thoughts that we've had and kept a journal of them for a week just to see what kind of nastiness comes up in your head and how much is complaints versus positivity. And I think it's so transparent in my head of like, yes, I am aware that it is 90 degrees and it's hot. Everybody else is. I'm sweating profusely. But the more and more you call it out, the more and more you say, it's so hot, it's so hot, it's so hot. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's hot. Like, but there's no way around it. So let's embrace it, right? Like, find a way to embrace that kind of like feeling. And that's kind of what I would love to teach more people.
Well, yeah. I mean, your thoughts are really powerful, and what the things that you keep thinking about and dwelling on and saying, like, you're just creating more of it. And like, I really believe that. And you know, we will have, like, there's so many times you and I will be doing something and we'll catch ourselves being very complaining. We'll even call each other out, like, bro, like, we're being super complaining right now, or you're being complaining. And it's like, yeah, you're right. And because you kind of naturally can switch into that as a human that's doing something that's a little challenging or uncomfortable. And like, but we try to just catch ourselves and then be like, cool, like, let's focus on something else. Like, even when we were waiting at the port, and it was, oh my God, it was absolute
horrible.
Horrible. It was chaos. It was a million degrees. We were all hot. We were all like hungover from the night before.
I thought I was going to puke on the dock.
We're all exhausted. It was a shit show. And we were just standing and standing and standing. And I was like, this is miserable. And in my head, this is so hot. I'm so over this. And then I was like, okay, focus on something else. And Pat, our friend, was standing next to us. He's like, okay, I'm just like, it was almost like he read my mind, but he's like, okay, I'm just like thinking of being in Patagonia right now. Like, I'm thinking of that cool breeze coming through. And it was like, it was just a positive switch of like, yeah, me too. It was like, we were obviously all in that together. Like, this is hot, this is miserable. But like, us sitting there talking about how miserable we are doesn't make it less miserable. It just makes it more miserable.
And that's where I was like, dude, I don't know if I can last another 5 minutes on this dock, so they better open this door quickly. But then I was like, wait a minute. I'm standing in Gili T. I'm about to board a boat to go to a hotel to have like an amazing final night. Like, we just had a really cool experience. The water is crystal blue. Like, I'm not at the hospital right now. I'm standing on a dock in freaking Gili T with all of these people, and I can guarantee you I could think of 100 million ways to do this better, but that's not my job, and I don't have to think of that. And so I'm just going to get on the boat, and I'm excited to. And I just kept saying that over and over again, and it changes the game.
Yeah.
And the more you focus on how miserable and how people are crowding in and bumping into you, and I hate crowds. I hate crowds more than anything. But it was like, wow, I'm like standing here with a bunch of travelers, and then I started to look at people and I'd be like, I wonder what they do for a living, and I wonder what they do for a living, and wow, they're on vacation. I wonder how long they're here. And like,
change your mind.
Totally change. It's that easy.
It is.
It's that easy.
It's easy to say. It's harder in practice, and it is something that you really have to be conscious of and work on. Period. End of story. Like, you really do have to think about it. Like, you have to switch it, because I kept doing the same thing. I'm like complaining in my head over and over again, and then I'd be like, okay, no, switch it back, because I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. I'm not gonna fucking survive this. Like, I'm gonna jump off this dock right now into the water. And it was just like, you had to keep coming back. Like, even in a hard workout, it's hard, and your minds wander into like, oh my God, this is hard. And then I always have to be like, okay, focus on something else. Just get through this, because you're always gonna get through it. You're always gonna come out on the other side. It's gonna make for a great story later. And let's just fucking try to get through it. It's not that hard. So
would you say that you'd have to watch yourself like a hawk?
Oh my God, I can't. I feel like that should be your next tattoo.
No.
No?
No.
So I think just kind of ending this, I think all in all, Travsessed Bali, I am so excited. This is a new trip for us to share with other humans. I think it was an incredible trip. I think that we had a lot of fun. We really did. There was just a lot. There was a lot like of moving parts, a lot of different things that we did together, shared together, and a lot of like fun moments and laughs. And I'm just grateful to have experienced this with our first group.
Yeah.
And we took a lot away. We learned a lot. We had to think about things were brought up to us that were never brought up that we now need to kind of take into consideration, and also like
Reevaluate.
not only for the trips, but for ourselves and the leaders that we want to be and the people we want to be. And so there was a lot. This trip was a lot, and it was incredible in so many ways. And I'm excited to kick off group 2.
Me too.
And to have another incredible experience in Bali.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just going off of the feeling, just sitting back at the villa now, and like the, amazing staff that's here, the amazing, like how good they took care of us, the food that we had here, the environment that's created here as the kickoff. Looking back at where I was in group 1, I was I filled with anxiety. And this one I'm filled with relaxation and excitement. And so to me, I understand that anxiety and excitement and nerves and excitement are the same, but you're the one putting the meaning behind it. And so I can understand where I was, but I think in just a comparison mode, I feel so relaxed and excited for this experience because I feel like I got it. Like I understand it. I got it. I can be a better leader from where I've learned from the last group of what I could do better. And I'm interested to take that into group 2 and take those pointers and see if I can put it into action.
Yeah.
And so that's the excitement.
Yeah. Same. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
Travsessed Bali number 2.
Travsessed Bali. And if you're interested in Travsessed Bali, you're listening to this and you're excited about it and you want to come be a part of this amazing place and this amazing itinerary and these amazing people and things that we do, definitely reach out and let us know. We always have the option, since we have such a good team here on the ground, that we can figure things out and maybe throw in a Bali trip that wasn't originally on the Travsessed docket. So just, letting us know, and we get enough interest in this trip, we could put something together relatively quickly for people. And so I'd love to just see who's interested in coming to Bali in general.
And join the interest list.
Yeah, but I mean,
the trip interest list. So go to imtravsessed.com. Make sure to join the interest list to get all the information about all of our trips, all the details, all of the things. Like that is where we send it. But yeah, I understand you're talking about specifically Bali.
Totally.
I don't know when we'll come back, but we will.
No, totally.
We are doing 2 trips in January. Those trips are sold out already, and depending on how all of this goes, maybe we'll do it again.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a yearly trip, but I was thinking, would we do another one in October maybe? I don't know. Like, we're thinking about that. So, that just depends on how many people are like, I want to go. So, that's where I'm at.
Sounds good.
All right, peeps. We'll see you next week with another episode.
I think we'll be back in the U.S., eh? I hope so.
Yeah. We're actually starting our story.
Yeah.
It's the trailer for the new season.
Fuck yeah, bro.
All right. Well.
All right, let's do it.
We're out.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.